Welcome to the October 2022 Global Horoscopes. Remember the keywords this month: fire truck, boat, helicopter. Let's begin. The following is a parable about a flood. In this story, there's a flood approaching a town, and the fire trucks are going through to evacuate everyone. And they come upon this one house, and the man says, No, I won't leave. I'll be fine. The Lord will save me. I'm good. And the fire truck, of course, had to leave because they had other people to evacuate that were willing to go. And naturally, the floodwaters continue to rise. Alrighty, well, we are starting the month of October, hitting the ground running. So starting on October 2nd, we will have a quarter moon. There's your quarter moon at 9 Capricorn. Give it a couple of hours, the moon will move there. Now, what's interesting about this particular quarter moon is it is also going to involve Jupiter retrograde. So we have a cardinal T-square forming with this particular quarter moon. Now, as this is happening, literally within 24 hours, we also have Mercury making its station direct, which is even more powerful in this particular case because Mercury is in its own sign of rulership as it's making its direct station. So this combined, we've got some really fascinating stuff happening this week you want to pay attention to because it's going to seem, well, it's going to seem like a lot of things, but there are secrets hidden inside. Listen here, quarter moon, 9 Cap, Mercury station direct, 24 Virgo. Okay. So the first thing is with this T-square, right, with the Sun, the Moon, and Jupiter retrograde in Aries, it is a time of action, not decision, right? Well, I mean, you have to make a decision to make an action, but it's a time of doing, not talking. So we may find ourselves across the globe in various situations in crisis mode where things have reached critical mass and now it is go time. Go, 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 boots on the ground, let's do it. We don't have time to talk about this. Let's get her done, right? While this is happening, one of the things that we may find ourselves dealing with, because Jupiter is retrograde, okay, is that it may feel like Jupiter is withholding its gifts or its protection or its blessings, you know, all the good things we typically associate with Jupiter, because it's retrograde and it's involved with this T-square. So we may find ourselves, more realistically, we may all find ourselves in various situations where the shortcomings of something or the piss poor planning, as my father used to, it's an old military saying, right? Piss poor planning creates poor outcomes. Anyway, there are things that should have been done and planned and prepared for long before now, and somebody's or somebody's plural have dropped the ball. So we may find ourselves facing a shortage of resources because also too Venus, which rules resources, is combust the Sun and opposing that Jupiter. So we may find ourselves facing a shortage of resources and having it literally front smack and center in the face of what is ultimately a real crisis that we have to deal with. And you know, crisis doesn't always necessarily mean that the house is burning down and your hair's on fire. I mean, it could, but it could also mean situations where things have reached critical mass, like it's go time. We've got to do something. We can't sit around and talk about this any longer. Do something now. Anything is better than nothing. So with Venus and Jupiter and opposition Jupiter being retrograde, this being a quarter moon, and all in cardinal signs, you know, and the Mercury stationing direct, revealing, pulling back the curtains and letting the light and shining it on everything on the table, especially things we're coming up short with, it's not going to be a fun first week. Now, here's the thing though, right? Try not to, you can be frustrated and curse and scream and, you know, shake your fist at the sky while all this is going on. Totally appropriate responses given the circumstances of expecting to find things to deal with this particular situation. and then realizing they're not there because somebody didn't do their job, or somebody's been mucking around, or somebody has been, dipping into the till, or like whatever the resources that should be there are now not there, and we're now painfully aware of it at the worst possible time. It's perfectly normal and acceptable to be rail at the sky angrily. But here's the thing I want you to keep in mind while you're going through these situations. This is extremely important because here is the magic, the miracle, and the lesson hidden in here. Jupiter retrograde means that it has a modest reservation of its gifts. Jupiter loves to expand everything it touches, good, bad, and different. Jupiter doesn't care. Jupiter's a party planet, boy. If we can blow it up bigger, baby, we're right there with it, right? Including the things that are going to make you suffer, and your problems, and your troubles. Because it is retrograde, it will hold back some of that overabundant energy that expands things to the high heavens and makes them bigger, larger, huger, than they would be otherwise. With Jupiter in Aries, which is definitely prone to impulsive behavior, we're okay with Jupiter being retrograde. Jupiter in Aries can be a little impulsive. And this T-square is all about doing, not thinking, doing, right? So when you've got situations where people are doing more than they're thinking, we're okay with them being held back a little bit. Just, slow down just a little. The other thing, and this Venus-Jupiter opposition is part of T-square, this is all, resource shortages that nobody knew about until now, because, cough, cough, somebody really dropped the ball. They thought that money be there forever. Anyway, with Mercury stationing direct in Virgo at the same time, this is giving us an opportunity to see where the cracks in the dam are so we can fix it before we get to a real emergency where the dam completely breaks and then we're totally screwed. So, believe it or not, this is not a forewarning of things to come. This is literally an opportunity for us to see where the problems are in a very real, immediate way, like danger, Will Robinson, danger, and learn from it and figure out how to fix these things and fortify them so that this never happens again. This is that kind of week. So just embrace it, because there's a lot of good that we can get out of this if we just run with that awareness that whatever we're up against, this is something that, has happened for a reason, because people weren't paying attention, people were getting a little too cocky and confident, because people just felt like if they just kept sticking their hand in the cookie jar, just one cookie at a time, nobody's ever going to notice. How often does that kind of emergency ever happen, right? And well, here we go. It's happened. So where's the cookies? This is a great time for us to figure out how we got to this position and to find ways to fix it so it never happens again. So in terms of counting your blessings, this is definitely the time. Now, while this is happening, I want you to take a look at this, right? So Mars, in case you're not believing me, Mars is making a trine to Saturn at the same time that this quarter moon is happening. Mars trining Saturn, especially since Mars disposits that Jupiter, favors organized, deliberate joining of forces and organized thinking, right? Your practical thinking that has real world applications, actions that are taken with a very pragmatic eye about how we can join forces or build bridges between one thing and the other to make things even stronger as a result of working together. So this Mars-Saturn trine that's happening while we've got this quarter moon happening is actually a really good thing. So hang in there. Can't see it now, but you'll see it later. And also too, just want to point out, while this is happening, this Mercury station that we were looking at, the Mercury station at 24 Virgo is doing a couple of interesting things during this quarter moon, or during this week of the quarter moon, right? So the first thing is we know it is opposing Neptune. Now, the good news is that Mercury has just moved away from Neptune. It's only a degree. I mean, it's still basically there, like underfoot. but it's moving away. So the impact is weakening as opposed to strengthening. So on the one hand, when Mercury is retrograde or Mercury is making its station, it leads to all sorts of confusion, which is only going to contribute to the screaming and hair pulling and teeth gnashing we're all going to be having at the beginning of October, because it just seems like people can't get their heads out of their hats, as it were. You know, literally, like, what planet are you living on that this was ever okay? So there's a lot of that. But at the same time, there will also be in other people a lot of visionary and inspired thinking, the ability to channel, I suppose, like Albert Einstein channeled information, you know, this creative genius imagination that pulls these things from out of what appears to be the ethers is absolutely going to be present in a lot of people as well. So those visionary, ingenious insights into problem solving absolutely are at a high point right now as well. The problem is it may be a little difficult to tell who's having visionary problem solving thinking and who's just delusional. You know, ultimately, it won't be that difficult to figure out which one's which, but you know, we will have a lot of that, or at least the people who think that they're being visionaries may not realize how not visionary they're being, or how delusional they are being instead. So with that, at the same time, this Mercury that's stationing direct will also be trining Pluto. So now both of these before had made a grand trine with Uranus, but we're well past that aspect. We're still carrying some of it with us, that energy with us, but it's not quite as intense as when it was closer to exact. So right now what we're really only dealing with is a Mercury trine Pluto. And with Mercury trine Pluto favors things that impact the masses, that represent major overhauls and reforms. It also has a lot to do with engineering, social engineering, physical engineering, mechanical engineering, all things engineering. Woohoo, baby. And this coupled with this Mars-Saturn trine absolutely underscores and emphasizes that. So at this time, when we're looking at this Mercury, understand that this whole beginning of the month is setting us up for looking at how we have engineered situations to bring us to this point, and how can we engineer things moving forward so we never end up here again. So there's really powerful stuff in here because, again, Jupiter is retrograde in Aries, not direct. Things could be a lot worse, and they're not. We're literally being given, in all of this, believe it or not, we're actually being given a second chance. And it may not seem like it because, you know, like if this is a second chance, where the heck was the first one, right? What's the third one going to look like? But we are, in a lot of ways, being given a second chance with this T-square and that Jupiter retrograde in Aries. Now, also to remember, by the end of the month, Jupiter will have backed into Pisces, its last final pass in Pisces. And that's a huge point of contention and topic of discussion we're getting to in the other part of the video. But for now, hang in there, baby. Hang in there. There's genius in here. But right now, we had to know and become really intimately aware and familiar with where the cracks in the dam are so we can go fix them and prevent this from ever happening again. So there you go. All right, let's get on to the next week. And the floodwaters continued to rise and forced the man to move up to the second floor of his house so that he wouldn't drown. Now a boat comes by, and as he's looking out the window, and the people in the boat say to him, "Sir, the floodwaters are going to keep getting higher. Get in the boat. We're here to rescue you." And the man says, No, I won't leave my house. I'm fine. The Lord will save me. So the boat continues on to search for other people needing to be rescued, that want to be rescued. And of course, the floodwaters keep rising. All right, so this brings us to the full moon, the days around the full moon on October 9th. Now, this full moon will be occurring at 16 Aries. And the good news is that this will not be the full moon in and of itself will not be particularly hard to deal with. I mean, it's typical full moon stuff. However, the caveat with this particular time period is that while that full moon is going on, we are now dealing officially with the exact Saturn-Uranus square, which is going to feel a lot like death by 1,000 paper cuts. With the Saturn-Uranus square, not only are they exact at 18, we also have the nodes involved, right? Well, that's always fun. So one of the things that I'm just guessing here, I'm pulling one out of my hat, but with this particular configuration and the full moon, one of the things that I might look for are major disruptive earth changes, like tectonic plates shifting, volcanoes going off, California breaking off and sliding into the sea, or, Florida disappearing. It's not funny, I'm sorry. But we are looking at the possibility of huge, potentially devastating in a big freaking way, major earth changes or cracks in the solidity of the earth, sort of thing. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out, because again, what we're dealing with here is more than the full moon, because that full moon is just going to put an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. We're looking at an exact Saturn-Uranus square, which is what we've been building up to. And again, this is the last pass of Saturn squaring Uranus, and it's involving the nodes, which makes this a huge mass event or potentially mass catastrophe. And I'm not saying this to panic you, but I am saying this because it is a very real possibility. And this Saturn, here's the thing to understand, this Saturn-Uranus square could have played out thousands of different ways, but based on the trajectory we have been on and continue to be on, whatever manifests during the Saturn-Uranus square will be a direct result of all the choices we have made and the actions we have taken leading up to this moment. This is not an act of God. This is not some weird freak show. These are things that we knew were in the realm of multiple possibilities, and we decided to go down this road instead of another one. So keep that in mind as we look to see what manifests during this time. Now, at the same time, of course, while this Saturn-Uranus square has now become exact, because that's not painful enough, we also have, come on, you can do it. Oh, it's not going to give me the thing. Oh, for Pete's sake. Let's try this one. Oh, there we go. We also have this full moon putting the exclamation point at the end of the sentence. Now, here are some things that should make you feel better. One, Mercury is in Virgo and it is direct. Problem-solving skills are at an all-time freaking high right now. So literally, people who solve problems, they're like superheroes at this point. Because their synapses are going to be firing and popping like freaking popcorn in a popcorn maker, and they are going to be able to give us some really good stuff to work with. Because boy, if you need somebody where the devil in the details are to find the solution to the problem that you couldn't see otherwise, these are the folks to do it. So there's that. So no matter what happens, we have the wherewithal and the ability and the members of our groups who are able to fix this, like see exactly where the linchpin or the problem is and help us figure out a solution. So it's there. We'll take that. We will absolutely take that. Now, interesting to know, one of the things I want to say, and if you are in fact a problem solver or an engineer, because engineering comes under this as well, or an expert in some field, right? An actual expert, not a self-appointed expert because you politicked at work really well. You know who you are. We all know who you are. Academia is full of those kinds of personalities, that and bureaucracies. Anyway, one of the things you're going to notice is that the Mercury and Mars are still in square. However, remember, Mercury is the faster moving planet, which means that Mercury is moving away from Mars. Mercury's got at least easily a leg or two in distance away from Mars and heading towards the finish line before Mars will ever catch up to it. We'll take it. We will take it. So we can look for the better parts of Virgo, Gemini, Mars, and Mercury. So decisive action, less confusion, well, maybe a little bit of clusterfuck as people try to figure out what direction they're going in, but certainly much more determined, purposeful, meaningful, organized action than we've been dealing with prior to now. Also, again, you'll notice, right, we've still got that Mercury-Neptune opposition, which, is typically problematic. But again, Mercury's got a leg or two ahead of that Neptune and moving away. So Mercury has broken free of the noisemakers and the people who literally have all kinds of opinions and all sorts of things to say that are not helping, not helping. Could you just shut up? You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Yeah, those people. Ooh-wee. So Mercury is finally able to break away from the pack and actually have some space and silence around it to actually shine and be heard. So the solutions we've been needing that need to come out will be more visibly and easily discerned, seen, and heard around this full moon, even though it looks like we're standing in the middle of complete catastrophe. Because the shakeout from whatever happens at this time under this full moon is going to finally leave those noisy squawk boxes behind so that the people we notice and hear are the people who actually have something meaningful and useful to say that will help fix the problem. So that's something to look forward to. So hang in there with that. Let me get rid of some of this. Now, also too, so Venus still remains combust to the sun, so nobody's feeling great right now. I mean, we're all feeling a little sensitive, just a little sensitive and a little cranky and a little selfish and not really want to cooperate. We're going to have to kind of work through that as best we can. The thing to remember, though, is that it is, I don't know that it'll actually catch up to this, but it is still, in a general sense, applying to a trine with Mars and Gemini, which means that no matter how bad things are, communication, 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 and listening, 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 cooperative communication, active listening, all of these things will help us achieve much better results than we would have gotten at any other time. So the way out of difficult situations and dealing with difficult people has a lot to do with active listening. So we're in a really good prime time to explore and strengthen those skills and get something from it, right? Other than an hour of your life you'll never get back. Okay. Now, what is also happening at this time is Mercury has just, it's still there, it's 2 degrees, it's still there, but it's just leaving that trine to Pluto. And we're okay with that because this means that Mercury, as it's moving through those last couple of degrees of Virgo to kind of, put the emergency stopgap in and finally have something to say that people can hear them, it's carrying all that Pluto energy with it, which means that by definition, powerful, profound things can be hoped for and even expected from people who are offering solutions. So, and not these noisy squawk boxes out here who've got all kinds of things to say and don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. And so just so you know, in case you're not sure where that's coming from, Mars is in Gemini. Mars, we knew it was going to be Gemini for a long time, and Mars in Gemini really makes people garrulous and opinionated and really wanting to be part of a conversation, even if they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So everybody is a self-proclaimed expert at everything, and unfortunately Mars fuels a lot of this and makes them even more visible, noisy, like hard to ignore, right? And sometimes even puts them in positions to make decisions, as we've been seeing globally, right? There's just a whole lot of people that just, wow, need to do a lot more active listening and a lot more shutting the F up. Oh my gosh, but we're coming away from that, so, oh my God, hang in there. This full moon's actually going to shake out a lot of idiots from the tree. We're going to be okay, but ooh, what a price we're having to pay to shake out that many idiots. We're still going to deal with this as long as Mars is in Gemini, but the worst of it really, honestly, is pretty much over right now. Because because Mars is at 22, the next aspect Mars makes as it's traipsing through the sign Gemini will be a quincunx to Pluto, which, doesn't really, it's not useful to us, but it will also be a square to Neptune, which means that people who have all kinds of things to say and nothing to support it with are going to be even further out on the delusion tree. So if you were wondering who was full of crap and who wasn't, it will be very easy to determine which one's which as Mars moves further into the last degrees of its line. So there's that. You're welcome. Okay. And that is it for this full moon. It's complicated, but it's good. Oh, it's juicy and it's good, and we can get some good stuff out of this. So keep your eye on the prize. With this particular Saturn-Uranus square, I just want to point a couple of things out, just some observations, because this is the final pass of Saturn square Uranus, and they are exact. Looking at the degree, right, at 18 can emphasize some things in the chart. So with Taurus at 18 degrees, the emphasis by decadent and droit will be Virgo and Sagittarius, which are essentially Mercury and Jupiter ruled signs. With Aquarius, the emphasis is on Gemini and Virgo, which is exclusively Mercury. So Mercury becomes absolutely the planet to watch right now. So everything we said about Mercury just a few minutes ago is absolutely the thing that we want to focus on. So no matter what happens, don't lose your mind. There's really important, like, last chance to get it right sort of stuff that's possible if we're willing to give some silence and space to allow the reasonable, rational voices to come through that have actual solutions, long-term solutions, not short-term, the hammer on the nail sort of approaches. So, it's going to be quite the full moon. And the floodwaters kept rising. Now it had reached the roof line of the house, and the man was on top of the roof of his house, looking around him without a dry piece of land in sight, surrounded by floodwater. A helicopter came by and threw a rope down. Sir, take the rope. We're here to rescue you. And the man said, No. My faith is strong. My Lord will save me. I'm waiting for my Lord to appear and handle this. Okay, and the helicopter went off because they can't stand and argue with somebody to search for other people who are in need of rescue. Meanwhile, the floodwaters kept rising. Well, hello, Castor. All right, so this brings us to the quarter moon at 24 Cancer and Libra. Just want to say right now, if you have not had a nervous breakdown by now, I want you to pat yourself on the back, because we've had more than a few years of this nerve jarring chaos. Oh my God, with literally the worst possible people in positions of power and influence wreaking havoc on the rest of our lives, and literally coming to a head right now, All these planets have turned direct. And one of the things you may have noticed in the last couple of days or weeks, because today is the 27th or 28th that I'm recording this of September, is that we've been seeing a lot of truth-telling happening. Woohoo, baby! Whole lot of people getting caught with their pants down around their ankles. No way to lie about it this time, which is good. Because again, I said it before and I'll say it again, we are in a time of reckoning. So people who've been up to no good, or who that's their whole MO in life, is being up to no good, taking advantage of people, lying, misrepresenting, like they can't even lie right now. Like the lies are so bald-faced bad and so easily disproven and like out on the table that you're literally better off just telling the truth. So we're not only seeing that on a meta level with our leadership and countries and governments, but we're also seeing this on a personal level. So all you scallywags out there whose whole bank and trade has been taking advantage of people's ignorance or trust in you, and playing with words and rationalizing your rotten behavior, ooh, boy, The losses you are incurring right now are not just because of the situation you find yourself in, but from a whole lifetime of having really slippery, poor character. So if you want to redeem yourself and not make things worse, now would be a good time to start doing things like, I don't know, being honest, having a little integrity, thinking about other people. I'm just saying. Back to the quarter moon. Okay, so October 17th, 2022, we have this beautiful quarter moon with Libra and Cancer. Now, what's really special about this particular quarter moon is that even though Venus is combust to the sun still, so we are still not able to access the benefits and wonderful parts of Venus right now like we normally would, it is conjunct the fixed star Spica, and the sun is conjunct the fixed star Arcturus. These are really important, powerful, full of blessings and goodwill and good luck and good fortune fixed stars. So with the sun and Venus there, even though Venus is combust, this promises a whole lot of assistance and protection and good fortune under this quarter moon, which we really, really need because, man, we had quite the shakeup under that full moon that just passed, didn't we? All right. At the same time, now here's what's interesting. At the same time, the moon is conjunct the fixed star Castor. Castor is a fixed star who has a twin named Pollux. And both of these fixed stars are a couple of little troublemakers. So if you can imagine Bebe's Kids or Dennis the Menace, or pick the mischievous little troublemaker from, childhood cartoons or TV shows, imagine they had a twin, and this is Castor and Pollux. So what we're dealing with is Castor. Now, Pollux is considered the boxer or the fighter. Thank God we're not dealing with him. Let's get him out of here. But we're still left with Castor, who is the mischievous troublemaker. So Castor has a very strong mercurial emphasis. One of the things you're going to notice that is a theme this month is Mercury, Mercury, Mercury. Marsha. Mercury. So the Mercury activity is extremely important all month long. We got to watch that because, man, it's really acting and with a whole cast of supporting characters in the skies. So Castor is a Mercury-ruled fixed star. Castor is a mischief maker, a troublemaker, a pot stirrer. In terms of LARP games, I suppose, you'd be like the amoral, right? So there's moral, immoral, and amoral. Well, Castor's amoral. It doesn't really have an allegiance to anything except its own personal amusement. Castor, between the two, Castor and Pollux, Castor is the better of the two if you had to deal with him. He is the better behaved twin. He's also the smarter one and the more eloquent one. So one of the things that I would absolutely expect at this time with this particular quarter moon is the possibility of really getting some, what is the word that I'm looking for? Hold on. Sharp communications, really sharp thinking communications. So remember, in the last quarter moon or full moon that we were dealing with, there's a whole lot of stuff, and the quarter moon before that. Up until this point, all month long, we've been dealing with situations that have literally separating the wheat from the chaff, right? Which in this particular case has a lot to do with separating the opinionated loudmouths don't actually have solutions from people who actually think about what they're saying before they say it and actually look for long-term solutions that matter. Getting those two separated, right, has been a huge effort all month long, and we're kind of getting there. Unfortunately, it's required some really, really challenging situations to force that hand. Thank you, Mars and Gemini. And one of the things that I would expect around this particular quarter moon is leadership to step up. And that's leadership in the family, in the community, in your schools, in your businesses, in the government, leadership at every level to be able to finally convey eloquently and clearly and in ways that really make us feel better about where we're going with everything. Information that these problem solvers who've been busy doing things like actually working, behind the scenes, actually being able to deliver that to us. So this should be a very good and auspicious time around this quarter moon. So hang in there, baby. It's not all bad. Now, also too, I want to just point out with this particular quarter moon, right, with these three, I tell you, beautiful fixed stars. Now it is pulling in Pluto. which is always enough to make anybody nervous, right? It's like inviting your mean old grandma to the family reunion, or mother-in-law, because you just know she's going to have a complaint about everything. Anyway, with this also shows that things may reach a breaking point, but things will break for the better. Break for the better. So we will see things reaching critical mass or breaking points, but for better outcomes. So things that fall apart are literally falling into place. So whatever's going on in your life, understand that lucky breaks are coming in unlucky or inconvenient ways, and that's okay because the outcome is good. So, work with it as best you can. Okay, and what else do we have going on with this particular quarter moon? Again, the Saturn. Now, see, if you look, Saturn's at 18. Now, Uranus, because Uranus is going backwards, is at 17. So there's a little bit of lessening of pressure at this point, but we're still feeling it. We're going to feel this as long as Saturn and Neptune are in square by 3 degrees. So the pressure is a little bit less sharp than it was last week, but it's still there. The pressure is still there. So, just understand that that's that. Oh, and the other thing I want to show you guys also too is this moon, which is part of this quarter moon, right? This moon is enshrined to Neptune. So for those of you who work in creative fields or work with people, whether it's caretaking or service, the people-oriented businesses, anything that involves dealing with and directly involving or participating with people to get a desired outcome are tremendously benefited at this time. And you may find that you're getting a whole bunch of inspiration you didn't know was possible. So be open to the possibility that not everybody's awful. And be open to the possibility of inspired thoughts and solutions and actions. And believe it or not, at this time, under this particular quarter moon, taking a little bit of a risk and putting a little bit of trust in someone that you aren't sure about, or a situation you're not 100% about, may actually prove to be a fantastic thing. You may get a lot more out of this than you realize. We are in times of great uncertainty, so nobody wants to take any risks. And with all this Mars and Gemini, blah, 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 lies, 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 and more lies, it's hard to trust anybody. It's hard to trust anybody. There's a whole lot of dirty, underhand manipulation going on. And we all see it. We're just not necessarily in a position to, strike back directly as would be the only tool we have available to us. But I'm here to tell you, even with all of that, under this particular quarter moon around the 17th, right, going out a little bit on a limb and taking a risk may prove to be the best thing you ever do for yourself. Obviously, use your common sense, but don't let fear guide your decisions at this point, because we've got beautiful, beautiful, promising, protective, fixed stars operative under this quarter moon that will help get us through these situations. So listen to that inner voice. And of course, the floodwaters kept rising and the man died. Now he finds himself standing at the pearly gates talking to the good Lord, and he says to the Lord, in complete confusion with a feeling of betrayal, "How could you do this to me? How could you let me die? How could you just abandon me when I needed you? I've been a good servant for you. I have dedicated my life to you. How could you do this to me?" To which the good Lord replied, "I never abandon you. Who do you think sent the fire truck and the boat and the helicopter? I tried to save you. It was you who wouldn't save yourself." Oh yeah, oh yeah. And now for the show we've all been gearing up for, dun, 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 the new moon eclipse at 2 Scorpio on October 24th, 2022. Whee! Because you didn't need enough reasons to want to never get out of your bed and pull the covers over your head again, right? Okay, so it's not all bad, munchkins and sweetiekins. So let's take a look at what we got. All right, so first things first, I remember this is a heavily mercurial month, all month long, like Mercury, 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 Mercury. It's always about Mercury. At the time of this eclipse, Mercury will be at 22 Libra, which is the fixed star Spica, which is a very lucky, protective fixed star. So let's count our blessings right there and say, hell yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. All right. So that's the first bit of good news around this eclipse. So don't panic. Do not panic. Get rid of that. And now let's look at the eclipse itself. So the eclipse itself is going to be here. So we have the sun, we have the moon, and we have Venus all together at 2 Scorpio. Now, what's important about this, when the moon is in the degree of the sun, right, because everything's literally at, so the sun's at 201, the moon is at 206, and Venus is at 240, okay? So when the moon is in the sun, right, it's basically buried. You can't, there's no light coming from the moon because there's nothing to reflect. It's literally eclipsed or hidden by the sun. So the moon has no power to act. The reason this matters to us is because the moon represents the ebb and flow of life. It represents people, right? Not just women in pregnancy, but everything, waterways, life, mental health, emotional health. The ebb and flow of life is the moon. So when the moon is hidden underneath or basically buried under the sun, the moon doesn't have any power to act. It has no strength. It's literally overpowered, overshadowed by greater forces. With eclipses, we have nodal involvement, which is a whole other conversation. Anyway, so in this particular case, it's not necessarily great. So what I would say is, with this particular new moon eclipse, we can expect, because it's in the sign Scorpio, we can absolutely expect some rock'em sock'em robot action, like pow pow, kerpow, kerpow, pow pow, take that, offender. It's probably, you may not remember the game. I'll put a link below so you can see it, or I'll put a picture in here. It's called Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Anyway, we can expect that type of vigorous and to the death sort of battling over who's right and who's wrong and who's going to win this argument when it comes to finances, in particular debts, resources, and global finances. The thing to understand about this eclipse, especially if this is where you find it in your chart, this new moon eclipse in Scorpio is going to set up a whole new cycle of challenges or blessings, depending on how this configures to your personal chart, for the next 6 months, right? On a global scale, what we're going to see is a huge, powerful, impactful, on the table discussions, because typically Scorpio likes things to be hidden, but it's not going to have a chance this time because Mercury, right? About global finance and global or international economics. No man is an island, and unfortunately, what most of us at our level that don't have economics degrees, and I only know this because I dated somebody who was an economist at one time in my life, all of the international banks and companies and investments, all the global economy, they're literally all tied together like a fishing net. If one goes down, everybody goes down with them, right? So if you could remember on a smaller scale, remember the European Union, when Greece, in their infinite financial mismanagement, because they didn't want to pay their bills and just wanted to party all night, basically went bankrupt or was about to go bankrupt, and the rest of the EU had to bail them out and basically pay their bills for them. So on the surface, it's like, well, why would anybody do that? Well, because nobody really had a choice. Because if they let Germany go bankrupt because they were part of the European Union, that would have literally caused a chain of domino collapse with every other financial institution connected to or inside the European Union. The global economy is exactly like that, except it's not limited to a European Union. The global economy and the banking system is connected like that, far in excess and beyond that. So, for instance, there was the thing many years ago when Japan's economy almost collapsed. And that was a big problem, because if Japan's economy had collapsed, it would have taken down the entire globe with it, because they're all connected to each other. I'm not completely how this works because I'm not an economist, but I do remember those conversations, and that's what we're looking at with this 2-degree Scorpio eclipse. So there's a lot, whether we're giving the details or not, there are a lot of things happening right now that has to do with the reorganization of shared finances between nations, between banks, between international banks, between banking institutions across the globe. There's a whole lot of moving and shaking going on because it is this wow. Just wow, this eclipse is going to set things up for the next 6 months. So pay attention, because the things that seem like nothing are actually a big thing, which is also why I'm not, and many economists are also not in favor of this isolationist sort of mentality, like, you know, America first and, you know, Brexit and all sort of stuff. Good luck with that. It doesn't, like we're seeing now with Brexit, because it's a smaller nation, and they were able to autonomously pull out in a way that's visible to everybody. We're seeing the effects of that decision and how that's, you know, continuing to cause problems, you know, moving forward. So got a whole lot of that happening. All right, and and the eclipse is definitely going to put that center stage. Woohoo! Now, here's the good news, because you needed the good news, right? Venus is in the heart of the sun. Venus is cazimi the sun. Now, there are some people who would say that Venus or any planet would have to be within 15 minutes of the exact degree and minute of the sun to be considered cazimi. And technically, Venus is out of that. It's at 40 minutes. 39 minutes. It's 39 minutes away from the heart of the sun. But you know what? I'm going to take it because, damn it, we need some good news. And, you know, not everything's that exact or specific. Some things are. And, you know, I'm really, really picky about keeping things exact. I don't like sloppy astrology. But in this case, we'll give it the extra 15 minutes, right? So with that said, if we use Venus as being cazimi the sun, or in the heart of the sun, it means, my friends, that no matter what the shakeup is going on in terms of financial institutions on a global economic level, meaning literally all of us are getting impacted by this and the decisions being made, Venus, which represents our money and our resources, and also our shared resources, which is where the problem is, are being protected. So for the next 6 months, we may see a whole lot of covert or under the behind closed doors sort of wheeling and dealing going on, specifically intended to protect, you know, the global economy and all the people involved, because no man is an island when it comes to loans and debts, especially not in this day and age. All right, so have some faith that the universe is looking out for us, and there is the opportunity that we're going to get through this relatively unscathed, and that there are people driving the bus that know where they're going and can manage to avoid the potholes. Between now and then, of course, we've got to get the idiots, the noisemakers who've got all kinds of opinions and no idea what they're talking about, like literally to sit down and shut up and get out of the way. Whew, golly day. Okay, so there's that. Now, with this particular eclipse, it will eventually, it's not there, but it will eventually move into a square with Saturn. So we can expect some austerity to occur when it gets down closer to that Saturn, which would probably be closer to the end of the 6 months. So we're not, we're not going back to days of wine and roses immediately. We've got some belt tightening and budgeting and, you know, more structured financial management that we've got to do personally and on a large scale, but we can get through it. The other thing, remember, Saturn is part of this gnarly square. My pen's acting up. With Saturn and Uranus part of this gnarly square with each other, which will now also involve this eclipse. Now, the eclipse is very wide, so we're not necessarily feeling it immediately, so we won't necessarily feel it in the next 6 months. Not this eclipse, and not with that Saturn and Uranus square, but the energy or the vibe is still there. So there's still going to be much anxiety and a lot of selfishness when it comes to resources. And boy, we're seeing that play out, aren't we? Good grief. Yeah, let's strangle the middle class so that the wealthy can have even more tax breaks and not pay back into society from the people they profit from. Ugh, anyway, sorry. So we're seeing that now. We'll continue to see that as the next 6 months roll by. But again, remember, Venus is cazimi the sun, so there is protection from people way up high, you know, have a bird's eye view of what's going on around us and looking forward into the future, who are going to do everything they can to protect the economy from completely collapsing, because anybody's economy collapsing right now will literally mean a global collapse. And whether they tell us that or not, there are people way up high that know that. So, you know, they know what their underlings are doing in terms of being selfish brats, but they're going to do everything they can to try and get us through this so we don't all end up, you know, setting our hair on fire. So, my friends, so there's that. The other thing I want to point out, and it's the same thing because it's wide, just like that T-square with these two planets is wide. Eventually, that eclipse will connect to or pull in Neptune in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn. And again, and I'm going to say it over and over and over again, the key to getting through all of this is to having a humanitarian vision that is charity-based, and understanding that standing on this island of me, mine, my is exactly how you self-destruct, right? If you want to take the path to perdition faster, stand up there and act like the only thing that matters is you and yours, and you're not sharing anything with anybody, and to hell with everybody else. That is literally the recipe for exactly what you're trying to avoid. I'm just saying. And for those of you who are not completely sure what I'm talking about, this would be a great time to learn a little American history and go back and take a look at Roosevelt and the New Deal that he implemented at the time of the Great Depression, which was also during a Saturn-Uranus square. So there you go, my friends. Okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So let me just get into the eclipses real quick for people personally, right? So if you're in Aries, all right, Aries, Libra, Scorpio, that eclipse is going to occur in your solar 8th house. So joint finances, loans, and debts are going to be a topic of discussion and a bit problematic for the next and certainly active for the next 6 months. So be very wary and avoid taking out loans or co-signing on things if you can possibly do it for the next 6 months, because nothing is going to go the way it was planned or the way you're expecting it. It's just not a good time to get involved in anything that's going to drive you deeper into debt. Taurus. For those of you who are born under the sign Taurus, your solar 7th house is what is getting impacted by this eclipse. And what that means is you can expect people to be as unpredictable as the rain, you know, in the springtime. But more than that, with this eclipse occurring in your 7th house, there are big changes in partnerships coming. So you may have people coming into or leaving your life at this time. You may have people from your past reappearing that are very important or significant, or are simply symbolic and herald big changes that are on the way into your life. At this time, when it comes to relationships, you know, walk softly, carry a big stick, or maybe just walk softly and carry a big hug. Because right now, under this particular eclipse, it's very important that we plant seeds of love and support so we get that fruit back later. Everything you plant in your relationships right now, you will be receiving like a boomerang later. So plant wisely. Gemini, this Gemini, this eclipse will be occurring in your 6th house of work, health, and habits. So I would be very, very mindful of your basic daily housekeeping hygiene and also your work environments. Physical health and just the stress is going to be taking a physical toll on you at this time. So take extra care in terms of your physical health, and also be very mindful of your driving, as well as any potential hidden hazards around the house or at your job site. And Cancer. Cancer, this eclipse will be occurring in your 5th house of children, love affairs, speculation, and creativity. With this particular eclipse, for some of you, not all of you certainly, but for some of you, there may be some issues of reproductive organ issues that appear within the next 6 months. So if you're feeling any kind of way that's not even slightly off, definitely go get it checked out. There's things happening right now that are not obvious that could become big issues later. Also, too, with this heavy fifth house involvement with this particular Scorpio eclipse, you may find that children are needing your presence more than usual. So there might be some issues with addictions, either on the part of our children or grandchildren, and or our partners, but more specifically our lovers, our boyfriends and girlfriends. So be aware of that. Try not to get sucked into toxic situations. And understand that sometimes the best nurturing is the nurturing that's done with love and compassion, and a no-nonsense policy about I love you, but you can't do that. Okay. Leo, this eclipse is going to occur in your fourth house of home. So one of the things that we can absolutely expect this eclipse moving forward over the next 6 months is definitely a lot of changes inside the domestic residence. Now understand also that this is any real estate that you occupy, so it's not just your domicile or place where you lay your head. So expect some major transformative changes and some seed planting where you are setting up, quote, air quotes, house or residence as an identity within that real estate or physical realm. This should be, again, good stuff, but this is definitely where most of the activity is. Remember also, too, that Venus is cazimi the sun, so there's going to be a lot of protection and benefit support coming to you, and also more than a little jealousy. So, be aware and handle appropriately. Okay, Leo, Virgo. Oh, Virgo, my very favorite people on the planet. All right. So, Virgo, this eclipse will occur in your third house, which is your natural house. Well, it's actually Gemini's natural house, but it's Mercury's natural house. And your planetary ruler Mercury is conjunct Spica, and just all sorts of good stuff. So you may find yourself getting more involved in learning opportunities or expanding your knowledge base over the next 6 months, which will turn into major cashola or return on your financial investment later. So opportunities to educate or improve or expand your knowledge base are well worth supporting at this time. Leo, Virgo, Libra. Okay, you poor guys have just been getting hammered with this Pluto and Capricorn. All right. So, my Libra friends, the good news is Mercury is conjunct Spica in Libra, which is a great, great thing. So your ability to finesse, be diplomatic, and charm people, and basically talk your way in and out of situations and act as the intermediary to mediate challenging communications will be absolutely a great asset to you for the next 6 months under this eclipse. It will absolutely emphasize that. This eclipse will be occurring in your second house of income, so we can expect some major financial cycles to start kicking in right about now. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay. Yeah, major financial cycles kicking in. You may be finding yourself partnering with new people or people who are blasts from the past, maybe coming back to talk to you about the possibility of getting together and working something out. So keep your ears open. There's some good stuff happening over the next 6 months that are coming from this eclipse. And Scorpio, last but not least, this eclipse will obviously be occurring in your first house, in your solar first house. So in terms of identity and who you thought you were and who you think you're going to be and who you actually will be, all of these things are coming under radical transformation over the next 6 months. You may not recognize yourself in 6 months. So for those of you who are on a self-improvement kick, this is a great time to get it started. For those of you who are doing any type of rehab of your image or your health or your body or your life, again, this is a great time to do it. The investments you make into improving yourself now, moving forward, will have dramatic returns later. So absolutely go for it. Now, one of the things I would definitely add that's very important is that while this eclipse is occurring on October 24th, this is such exciting stuff. Saturn will be stationing direct. Yay, team. Now, Saturn stations direct, and as Saturn stations direct, this little bad boy right here, it will be trining that that oh my god, that noisemaker Mars in Gemini along with his eclipse. So things that you do at this time that are in line and in keeping with a structured future goal, right? Expanding outward, expanding your mind, becoming more informed, more aware, becoming a better version of yourself. And that specifically helps you burn off nervous energy in really constructive, structured ways are going to yield amazing results. Now, on a global level, Saturn stationing direct with this particular eclipse goes right back to this business about financial reform and people, the gatekeepers, or however we would call them at the very, very top, who have, a bird's eye view of the playing field around us, and also a much more long-term eye on the future and how bad things happening could be really bad for everybody, including them, will absolutely allow us or allow them and us on a global level to come together as a unified group in cooperation with each other to get the job done and to stabilize the economy. So I'm very excited about this Saturn station. We're going to be okay. Now, of course, it will still be squaring that Uranus, but remember, out of necessity, genius is born. So we may find that this squeeze that we're put in right now is literally the thing that we need to squeeze the genius out from the bottom of the tube. So yes, 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 and yes. Now, for those of you who are also interested, Saturn stationing direct, you want to look at it in the houses that you're carrying it. Okay, so let's try this again. Technology, God love it. All right, so because we don't always know what time you were born, for the Saturn station, because this Saturn station is particularly juicy and I'm really liking it, we're going to do this by sign, or element rather. So Saturn is in Aquarius, and we're going to break this down by, start with the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So if you have the sun or moon in Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, this section will apply to you. So with the sun or moon in Gemini, with this particular Saturn station, this is going to be remarkably good for you in a lot of ways. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow you an opportunity to stabilize and get support from people in positions of authority that will help you make or realize your plans and ambitions. So this is a very, very good time to take on some responsibility and show what you can do. If you're a Libra, sun or moon in Libra, this Saturn station is going to be particularly amazing for you. I can't say enough good things for you. So for those of you who've been looking for a break or support or some type of way out of an impossible situation, literally miracles out of nowhere, this particular Saturn station is going to bring it to you. So I just can't say enough good things about people with sun or moon in Libra that are going to take this Saturn station with the eclipse in Scorpio. So yay team, you guys are going to have it going on. If you're an Aquarius, unfortunately, I can't say the same thing. This particular eclipse with the Saturn station in your sign is going to be challenging, but strength comes from struggle. The struggle is what makes us strong, and being strong is what makes us beautiful. So this is your chance to do a little weightlifting. Saturn stationing in your sign will still be squaring that Uranus, so it's going to be uncomfortable. There's just no way around it. This has not been an easy time period for you, and it was never intended to be. This is a period of tremendous, remarkable personal growth and development, and you will get your report card right about now. And this will also set up cycles for the next 6 months in your life. So embrace the struggle, my friend. Embrace the struggle. There's some really powerful rewards coming from this if you are willing to embrace the struggle, because now is the time the report cards are coming in. Okay, and the next one we're going to go to are the earth signs, which will be Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. If you have the sun or moon in Virgo, this particular Saturn station is going to be a little challenging. So, this whole month has been difficult for you because it's such a strong Mercury month. And, everybody's nerves are jangled, yours, especially yours right now, because you've been dealing with all the noisy noisemakers who've been crowding out your voice, the voice of reason and sanity. So what we may find with the Saturn station is that all of this is literally kind of coming to a head, because you generally don't fall apart until things are reasonably under control, and then you really collapse, right? So with this Saturn station, I would definitely recommend taking some time off and investing in structured management of your physical health and your hygiene and housekeeping, both at work and at home. There are certainly some hazards there that will rear their ugly little heads. But this is a great opportunity for you to discover that they were there now that you're not going to be distracted by other things, and to get them taken care of. So put the time in to just soothe your jangled nerves by putting order back in the universe and doing some maintenance and cleanup in aisle 5, both physically as well as environmentally. If you are born under the sign sun or moon in Taurus, there's no way to make this easy for you. This is not going to be an easy Saturn station. So many of you who are born under the sign with the sun or moon in Taurus are going to feel like you are being unfairly put upon at this time. Literally people putting the screws to you, or life putting the screws to you, as it were. You're just going to have to roll with the punches. It will be over soon. You'll get through this. I promise you'll get through this, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, this won't be easy. And again, I feel like I need to say this more to you than some of the other signs. Selfishness is not the way to get the job done. Your survival instincts are legendary, but in this particular case, the more selfish and self-serving you think you need to be, the worse the outcome is going to be in these situations. So this is a really good time to learn how to be someone a little bit different when it comes to survival. Capricorn, for those of you who are born under the sign Capricorn, you will be happy to know that your finances are finally going to get some relief and reprieve, some unexpected reprieve. Now, it won't be easy because we're still dealing with a Uranus square, but any impasses or blockages or obstacles you've been dealing with where things just wouldn't move, oh my God, can we put another log on the fire, please? All of that is going to start dissipating and moving by the wayside. So for the next 6 months, you're heading into some nice financially open roads. So take a big breath and celebrate the Saturn station. It's going to bring you some really good and hard-earned things. Okay. So the next one we're going to do are the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Aries. For you, this particular Saturn station, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging mostly because one of two things will happen. Either you will have some house cleaning that will occur with your friendships and your social relationships. There's a whole lot of people that just aren't doing your life any good that are going to fall by the wayside. On the other hand, this could also be a time when you are making new friends with much more solid, powerful, responsible people who have meaningful goals and directions and ambitions far in excess of the people you're currently surrounded by. How you handle these situations is up to you. I'm just saying, in terms of your social contacts and connections, all of that's about to change and start moving forward if that's what you need it to be. So So much, your partying days might be coming to an end, right? Going from discotheques to networking. Okay, Leo. If you're born with a sun or moon in Leo, this is not going to be the happiest Saturn station you've ever had. So I hate to say it, folks, but those of you born with sun or moon in Leo may find that you're dealing with some losses and or some karmic situations that require sacrifice. There's no easy way to put that. You will become, or you will come out of this a stronger, better person. There will be benefit for you later, but for right now, while you're going through it, this is not going to be an easy Saturn station. So if you're listening to this report well ahead of this date, which is the 25th of October, fasten your seatbelts and be prepared for the possibility of losing some significant or important relationships because it's time for them to, it's literally time for them to go, or for you to go. If you're born with a sun or moon in Sagittarius, this particular Saturn station is going to occur in your third house of information and community and neighborhoods and cars. With this particular Saturn station and this eclipse occurring in your 12th house, I would be very, very careful of my travels. That's the first thing, because there are a lot of karmic circumstances that are going to be at play over the next 6 months, and I don't want to see you guys get hurt. So travel is kind of a dicey thing. Be much more cautious and safe and aware when you're traveling because circumstances well above and beyond your control are certainly going to play out in a very karmic fashion over the next 6 months and certainly around the time of this Saturn station. With this particular Saturn station occurring in your third house of information and local neighbors, communities, all this sort of stuff, telephones, cell phones, messages. If you guys have anything you don't want the entire world to know about, or you've been trying to hide, little dirty secrets you've been trying to keep, it's going to get exposed. You're going to have some answering and explaining to do. I'm not going to lie. So for those of you who've been playing on the up and up and acting with integrity, you got nothing to worry about, honey. You are golden, sterling even. But for the other Sagittarians who like to, you know, hem a little bit and nip and tuck the truth, you know who you are. This is going to be a difficult time for you because you're going to get called to the carpet on things that you have said or people have discovered that you have said. And now this brings us down to the water signs, which will be Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Now, if you were born with a sun or moon in Pisces, I will say that this particular Saturn station with the eclipse is going to be very good for you. So there may be a lot of divine intervention coming in from behind the scenes. Things are going to fall in your lap. Weird things are going to happen, Pisces. Weird things are going to happen. So you may have people reappearing from your past that you had completely forgotten about, up to and including your dead Uncle Fred showing up for dinner and nobody else can see him except you. Oh, won't that be fun? To big bags of money landing in your lap, to, you know, people giving you winning lottery tickets, like just all sorts of bizarre, weird, karmic things are going to fall into your lap around this time. So pay attention and be receptive because the smallest of things could be life-changing at this point because there's a lot of karma involved in what's happening with circumstances around you right now. If you were born with a sun or moon in Cancer, this particular Saturn station is going to occur in your 8th house. So debts, shared resources, money you share with partners, people that you owe money to, all of these things are going to become a little problematic. For you, Cancer, I would be very, sun or moon in Cancer, I'd be very aware of the plumbing in the house. There may be some issues with pipes bursting over the next 6 months that are going to be tremendously inconvenient, and that's the nice way to say it. Or it could be something to do with debts and loans and taxes, identity fraud, I don't know. But these are things that are going to come up. So you're always very cautious and always have a nest egg going on, but understand that your nest egg may be under attack by circumstances that require you to break open the piggy bank. And Scorpio, sun or moon in Scorpio. Oh my gosh. Um, so with this particular Saturn station, just like Taurus, this is not an easy Saturn station. Although with you, Scorpio, and this eclipse occurring at the same time, one of the things that I would probably look at is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be a time when you're just asking if the universe hates you. So you may be required or asked to take on more responsibility for your family or your home or distant relatives. People, you might have people moving in with you. You didn't know were going to move in with you, which may feel like a huge burden and cramp in your style, but it's a necessary evil, right? So now for the next, and moving forward in the next 6 months, especially with the Saturn station occurring in your fourth house of home, some of the things that we're looking at is literally a re-examination of who you are and what your purpose in life is, and how to get through it as best you can. This is a profound time of transformation. You can literally come out of this a whole new person in amazing ways that you can't even imagine for yourself. But for right now with the Saturn station, it's going to be pinchy. It's literally going to feel like somebody's pinching you. So, bear with it as best you can. We're going to get through this. And ultimately, a lot of what's happening for you has to do with being forced to let go of old stuff, because you really, once you've got your things and stuff, you don't like to let it go either. But sometimes we have to let go of our old identities, and that's a lot of what's happening right now too. So there you go. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for. Woohoo! Jupiter has now returned to Pisces. As of October 29th, or 28th, depending where you are on the planet, Jupiter will have officially backed up into the sign of Pisces, its home sign. This is a powerful, powerful position for Jupiter. This is also the last time Jupiter will be in Pisces for another 12 years. And at the beginning of this year, we talked about the power of Jupiter and Neptune being together in Pisces and why this is important, and we're revisiting it right now. This is literally, this whole month is about second chances and last chances to get it right. So anything that we need to deal with in terms of getting our consciousness in the right place, right? Getting your mind right, putting your spiritual ideals into practice, not being a lip service Christian, but an actual one, right? We got some weird stuff going on out here with, charlatans and all sort of stuff. This is the time to do it, because these things will have ripple effects for years and years and years and years and years to come. And we'll see it immediately. As soon as Jupiter heads back into Aries, we're going to see the effects of where our consciousness is during this time and whether we've passed the test. But right now, we're given our last chance to kind of go back and check our answers on the test to see if this is really the answer we want to give. So this is a really profound month, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out of here. So for those of you who know that minds and thoughts create reality, and you're putting your time in focusing on positive outcomes, positive, non-violent, non-destructive outcomes, people who are paying attention to the world we want to leave behind for our children and grandchildren, who are basically doing all the heavy lifting for everybody else, darling, you just keep on doing that heavy lifting because you're doing an amazing job. But we're really going to have to put the boots to the ground and really get into it all month long in October, because when we get to the end of October, that's when we're in the last leg of the race, and we've got to be ready for it. Now, at the same time, here's what's exciting, right? At the same time, Mars, little devil Mars, will be stationing retrograde. Now, I know some of you hear retrograde and you're just like, oh my God. And I don't blame you. I do not blame you. But in this particular case, this is a fantastic thing, because we need that Mars and Gemini to slow the hell down, shut up, sit down, let other people take the lead, and maybe think for a hot second before you open your mouth. Wow. Or, maybe calm yourself and check in to see if that's really what you want to do before you jump to a conclusion, Mars and Gemini. So Mars retrograde in Gemini is going to slow down those impulses of Mars, and Gemini is already an impulsive sign. The two together has not been great. And what this is going to do is give us some lead time to slow the hell down and figure out what we're saying and doing and thinking before we open our mouth or put our feet on the floor to start acting on it. This is, I cannot tell you how much of a beautiful thing this is. Now, while this is happening, that Mars station retrograde, which will occur on October 31st, will also be squaring Neptune and Jupiter, which, as it's for these couple of days while Mars makes its station, just for these couple of days, it's going to be a little chaotic and a little weird, and we're going to have a higher propensity for accidents and all sorts of shenanigans by people who are, a little unbalanced. So, be careful out there and understand that we are in a time of tremendous wobble, right, on these 2 days, or these three or 4 days. This whole time period around these days, we're in a tremendous time of wobble in the universe. So things are going to be unstable. Things are going to be confusing. People aren't going to know what direction they're going in. People will literally think they're going one way and are actually going another. There's going to be a lot of confusion around this. And also, too, be aware that sabotage comes under Mars-Neptune square, especially with Gemini and Pisces. This particular combination, Mars and Gemini and Neptune and Pisces, is very much about saboteurs, because it is the energy of sabotage. So this entire time that Mars has been in the late degrees of Gemini, well back since the beginning of the month, and even back into September, sabotage has been a very big deal. And certainly operative, or more easily operative at this time. We will definitely see like huge dramatic expressions of sabotage around the end of the month when Mars stations retrograde and Jupiter heads back into Pisces. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, maybe not much, because hopefully you don't have those kinds of enemies. What it does mean on a global level is that anything that involves, well, I hate to say it, folks, but things that involve bridges, tunnels, pipes, gas, liquids like oil and oil pipelines, these are things that are going to be particularly sensitive and vulnerable to sabotage. So be aware of those things if you work around or live around those types of areas, that this is a very real possibility, and have some type of contingency plan. God forbid the worst happens, right? The good news is this has nothing to do with nuclear reactors, so I'm not worried about, nuclear power plants being bombed. Thank God. We'll still be here for the November horoscope. We may have 3 eyes and purple tongues, but we'll be here. I'm just kidding. Sorry, my anxiety levels are so high I literally don't even know how to act these days. But this has more to do with, because it's Pisces is water, right? And Gemini has to do with things that connect, like bridges and pipes, things that connect one person or place to another, right? So with Gemini, Pisces, Mars station retrograde in Gemini, and Jupiter and Neptune both in Pisces, I would expect gas and oil pipelines that run, transcontinental ones that run from one nation or country to another, that join 2 different things together in transit to be an issue. Now, also too, remember that Gemini also rules transportation and Neptune rules the waterways. So this could easily be more active or activity involving naval militaries and or water transportation, boats, ships, shipping containers, things of that nature. Like that giant ship that got stuck in the canal sideways. Although in this particular case, that was not sabotage. That was the universe having a little fun with us. And in this particular case, this is definitely the possibility of some sabotage, or certainly things are misinterpreted as aggressive actions that are not, and that leading to a whole other set of problems. For you in your personal life, again, be very mindful of your travel. Be very mindful that there's going to be a whole lot of misunderstandings, confusion. So double check to make sure that people are hearing what you're actually saying, because what you're saying may not be interpreted the way it's coming out, like by the person. So be mindful of that around these days. And remember, Jupiter is back in Pisces for the final time for the next 12 years, and it couldn't be in a more powerful position with Pluto in those late degrees of Capricorn. This is the time to get your mind right. This month is a powerful month, and this is an important time to get your mind right, because when Jupiter is now officially in Pisces going into November, this is the last leg of the race. So we've got to do all the heavy lifting, the preparing right now, so when we hit that last mile and get that last burst of energy to go across that finish line, we can do it. We can do it. So that's it, my friends. This is your October horoscope. If you have any questions, please feel free to put a comment or question in the comment box below. If you enjoyed this, by all means, like, subscribe, share. I'm sorry it took so long to get this up. I literally just did this on the 27th and 28th because current events, I'm never going to get any sleep at night again. Oh my God, are you as crazy as I am right now? 'Cause I swear I'm about batshit crazy. But survival is based on optimism. Optimism is a survival skill, and I'm trying to survive here, so I'm going to remain optimistic. And I honestly don't see nuclear meltdowns in the immediate future. We're going to see a whole lot of other stuff, but no nuclear meltdowns. But to keep moving in a direction we want to go in, whew, golly day, we've all got to get on the ship together, right? Just like the life of Pi, being trapped on a boat with a tiger. You may not like each other and you may not trust each other, but for right now, in terms of mutual survival, we've got to find a way to get through this together. All right, talk to you later. Bye.